Yeah, Lauren caught me listening to the College Dropout this morning.
Nice.
Cool. All right, guys. Welcome, everyone. I'm gonna fade that out. Cool, guys. Thanks everybody for showing up. My name is Joe Oz. I run a real estate team in New Jersey. We sell some houses in Orange County, California too sometimes. And we're at EXP Realty. And so a long time ago, every Thursday we just do a training, right? This was our team training. We want to just give back. We just want to give back to. We want to give back to the real estate community. Like in our organization, we have a we have a theory of like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? We believe that no one succeeds alone, and we also believe that doing this real estate thing alone kind of sucks, right? And having fun with it and sharing ideas and giving each other high fives is really fun, right? And that's the culture that we have here. And what happened was I would do these trainings every Thursday, and my real estate team got sick and tired of me yelling about like circle dialing or calling expireds or whatever, you're like yelling scripts at them or something. And we started just inviting our friends on, man. And we've been really lucky that sometimes they say yes, And so Sal's here. Sal's a friend of mine. Sal and I, dude, we started working together. Like, isn't that wild, dude? We like worked at Remax together like 100 years ago. We were like, before we went through puberty, right? And then Sal, I shared with my team. I don't know if you remember this. I remember vividly, like you got a listing. We were like in our little office on Tyndall Road. And I was like Sal and I shared a room. Like we were like in an office. And I was like, you got a listing. I'm like, yo, how'd you get a listing? And you're like,
I remember that. I remember exactly. I remember the house actually.
I remember being like, dude, how did you get a listing? And you're like, I know. And I'm like, shit. And it was funny, man. It was cool. At that moment, I was like, I could tell we both were just kind of just like, I don't know, man. I could say a lot of nice things about you, dude. I remember we connected on like hip hop music. You were like, dude, I just sing about like, stuff like just achieving and doing better and like,
Sure.
breaking through walls and shit, things like that. So, dude, I'm glad you're here. You joined our company not too long ago, and that was just massive. I'll share this with you, man, in a public forum. Sam Marks, who's the top agent on our team, totally crushes. He grew up and lives in Spring Lake, and he was like, he saw your sign change on Route 71 before there was an announcement, and my phone rang. He's like, dude, is Sal Ventry coming here? He's like, by the way, none of my friends know what EXP is, but they know who Sal Ventry is, so that'll be really good for us.
Yeah.
My parents live right down the street. I was driving on 71 and I like slammed on the brakes. I was like, whoa, what happened to that?
Awesome. Yeah, it was a great move. I wish that I would have done it sooner, but better late than never.
For sure. So what I'm going to do is I have a bunch of questions here. We're going to do this Q&A style. Sal's been really kind enough to just give us his time. He's a super busy guy. And I'm just going to dive in. So we're going to do this for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, see where it goes. We're going to stop, and then Sal's going to take some questions. All right, everyone. Sal, tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, your team, your company, your production, years in the business, anything like that.
Yeah, so I got started in the business 10, 11 years ago at this point, kind of on accident. I was always entrepreneurial. So I was, at the time, I owned like this frozen yogurt place, and it was slow during the winter. So I was like, I'm going to take a shot at flipping houses. Let me get my real estate license. And I just kind of stumbled into real estate sales. I got lucky. I sold a house, fairly quickly after getting my license, and got addicted to it. And I ended up selling my business within 6 months at the time, and jumped full-time into real estate sales. Did it for about a year, did okay. I sold like a dozen homes my first year, which I think is awesome. However, I will say, a little disclaimer, my broker kind of took me under his wing at that time. And like 8 of those 12 were co-lists that he like teed up for me, So me being 1 year in the business, 23 years old, I was like, I could do this anywhere. I'm just going to move to like Red Bank because the houses are more expensive, and do it there. And that's when I ironically met Joe, who introduced me to our old broker, Chris. I moved to Red Bank that year, and then quickly realized that it was a lot harder than I thought. So I spent that year like doing no deals and trying to figure out what the hell I was doing wrong. And then I kind of like, there was actually years 2 and 3, there were many times where I contemplated getting out of the business because I was like, maybe this just isn't for me. but I met a couple good mentors, really kind of stuck it out. So I think my big aha moment was like in between year 2 and 3, when I was thinking about quitting. I actually went and trained for one day to be a bartender at a TGI Fridays, because I was like, I need to make money, right? And after that day, I remember driving home and I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna figure it out in real estate. So I just literally spent every waking moment trying to figure it out for myself and get some advice from my mentors. I YouTubed everything, I read, I did whatever I could, I knocked on doors. And then like, just from trying to take advantage of every single opportunity, I had like a breakthrough year from year 3 to 4. So I went from doing like 12 or 13 deals a year to doing like 45. And then it's been going up every year since then. And then at about year 6 or so is when I decided to start my team.
Dude, that's awesome, man. How many people are on your team now?
When we came to EXP in April, it was 8, and now we're at almost 30.
Damn. How did that happen?
So when I was with Remax and I started my team, I feel like Remax had, the model wasn't built to support teams. And so it was tough for me to grow, and it was very costly for me to grow. And if those agents weren't performing, and also too, I didn't have anyone within my company that was running a team that could help me and figure out, how to structure this team, how to pay employees, what to really do. So I was just figuring it all out on my own. And just, truth be told, to be 100% transparent, it was just too expensive to hire people, bring on new agents at Remax. And so then once we went to EXP, and the business model is totally conducive to helping teams grow. And I also was able to learn from a lot of really successful team leaders. I was like, oh, okay, this is what I was doing wrong. This is what I need to be doing. And, in 6 months, we've quadrupled our growth.
That's awesome. That makes perfect sense, man. Yeah, we had the same thing at KW. We were, I'm handing over 100 to 150 grand in like cost of sales, right?
I think my last year at Remax, I paid it was like 220 something thousand just to say like I worked at Remax. It was bizarre.
Crazy, man. But that's the way it goes, man. And that's the thing. Like Gary Keller said, lucky enough to sit in some rooms with Gary Keller, so I mentioned him a lot. But he said his prediction of the real estate industry was that the agent will become the mega agent will become a team, that he said the team will become a mega team, and then the team will become the brokerage. And he said, I don't know what that's going to look like, but that just makes sense to me. And that's kind of what's happening, right? And we don't really decide how the cards fall, right? We just want to be on the right side of that, right? How do agents find you, man? Like, how do you, like, what does that look like? You've been very successful with agent traction. I think you have a lot of influence in the area. You're obviously very successful. Besides all that,
dude, I gotta be honest with you. Fortunately, everyone that's on my team today has come to us. I've like rarely put out ads to hire agents, but they usually never go anywhere, truthfully. And the people that do reach out haven't panned out. I've been having a lot better luck with people that have come to me, and I found out that those people that do reach out to us are more loyal to the company, the team. They want to be there, as opposed to like me convincing someone to be there. Now that being said, and when it comes to terms for EXP and just the whole recruiting aspect of it, I need to open up my horizons and actually start recruiting agents. But for my core team, we've just stuck with people that want to be a part of what we do. And I think that's just because of the branding that we do, the marketing that we do. We have a really good group of people, a really good culture. We've had some people come and go. I'm a believer of like, one person is not bigger than the team. And so no matter how good they are or how productive they are, if they're not conducive to like the culture of the team, it's just not worth having them. So I think people can see that we are a really fun group. And not only do we have fun, but we all kind of have the same goals in mind. And I think that we do a really good job of just our branding and our promotion. And that's it.
Dude, that's a really good segue. Well, I'll tell you this, man. I think you were saying I don't think I get to do a good job with that with EXP. You just got here, man. Like the same thing happens. Like our friend Kenny in San Francisco or whatever in the Bay
Who
Area.
is insane, by the way. I can't even follow him on social media because I'm just like, this guy makes me feel like a loser.
Following that guy on Instagram is like having a seizure, right? You're like, oh my God. I like look at his like sushi. I'm looking at all the money he spends. I'm like car, Tesla, sushi dinner. I'm like, oh my airplane. I'm like, oh my God. But anyway, he's at the point, he's like 3 years in, and like he's at the point, he just focused on, Dan Beer always says, just focus on production. Just do the right thing and treat your people right. And everything else just kind of shows up, right? And that's really what you're doing. That's the lead indicator, right? And so for Kenny, he told me, he's like, people he doesn't even know are just coming to EXP, not even joining his team and just writing his name down, right? Because they know that like they can pick up the phone and call him or whatever, just be in that world or whatever. But so you just mentioned something that I wanted to talk about is your branding and your marketing, right? Like that's one thing where like like I said, dude, I've known you a long time, and I remember seeing like billboards pop up, new like, dude, you were like one of the first ones to do like dude, you were one of the first ones to implement like, and dude, people still don't do it. Not one of the first. I'm talking like everyone's doing it. No one's doing it still, but like to implement video, man, and like go for it and take risks. And it like really paid off, man. Can you talk about that stuff and the decisions you made to like do that and what's working and what's not? And that's really cool, man.
So I've always loved attention. So I like, so I wasn't ever really afraid to like get in front of the camera and do that type of stuff. Now I will say there've been many videos and things that I've posted and things that I've done that I've taken down like 5 minutes later because I was either like embarrassed, or I wasn't sure what someone was going to say. And I will say in the beginning, no matter how good of a video it was, or no matter what I would post, there would always be people. And typically it was people that were like closer to me that would be like, dude, what are you doing? You look like a goof. Like, get out, like, why are you taking selfies? Like, what the fuck, you know? And it's hard, I think, to overcome that and have the, have the confidence, I guess, or for lack of better terms, to not let that stuff get under your skin. Because I think that's the biggest challenge is people are afraid of what other people are going to think about their videos and the things that they post, and like they're embarrassed or something like that. And so getting over that is the first thing. And then for me, I think one of my biggest strengths in just life and in real estate in general, in every situation, I try to put myself in the other person's shoes and like envision how they're taking everything in, right? So I think I kind of realized early on, just from a consumer standpoint, that like, wow, when people posted video, I'm way more engaged, and I'm like, I want to keep watching their videos, and I want to like, I almost feel like I know this person from watching their videos, and like it builds a lot of brand loyalty. And so I was like, maybe like that will work in real estate. And so I started doing those things, and it definitely helped, man. And like I started doing like catchy like hashtags. I don't know if you remember, like years and years ago, I started with Better Call Sal, like off of the show Better Call Saul. And that blew up. I mean, literally everywhere, every bar, every restaurant I would go, people would be like, oh, Better Call Sal, you know, like it just stuck, you know? And so and again, there were people at the time that would like, you know, try to like make fun of me for it or something. So like, it takes a little bit of like balls, for lack of better terms, but like you kind of got to just not care about that stuff, because at the end of the day, those people aren't paying my bills. And I can specifically think of particular people that would get on me the hardest for that type of stuff that now are like asking me for a job.
Dude, I hope you guys heard that, man. That was Sal, that was fucking awesome, man. That was a lot, dude. That was good, man. I wrote a bunch down. That was huge, man. Yeah, scared money don't make none, right? Yeah, the people that are making fun of you, man, it's funny. Someone said to me once, like when someone's talking down to you or talking you out of something or telling you can't do something, they're not really talking to you. They're talking to themselves. Like they're talking to their own insecurities, right? And that was something that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, damn, that's probably because I think I can do it. Like, I don't know. And like the goofy shit, man, people like the Better Call Sal in the bar. Like, dude, people just want to have fun at the end of the day, man. And if you take yourself too seriously, like whatever, right? So like,
and I'll be honest with you, going back to like putting yourself in a person's shoes. I'm sure you can think of people on social media, maybe not real estate related, maybe they're in the music industry, maybe they're in the art industry, car dealers, whatever the case is. I know me, like I follow some different types of personalities and people on social media, not always like the most popular, but I'm always most engaged with people that are real and authentically themselves and not trying to be like the perfect person and the perfect influence. Like it's so much more engaging when you're like, oh my God, they're a real person. They have those flaws too. Like, oh, I love this guy. You know, I think you would kill it on video.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like, yeah, if I'm a film, I'm like, yeah, if I'm like slamming a turkey sandwich in my face, I'm gonna film a video, have it like all over my face. But yeah, man, that's we just did a training last week with Nick Krem, and he talked about video the whole time, man. And like what people were saying, just to elaborate here on this, because I think it's so important, is dude, people don't really watch TV. Like they watch, they watch TV on their phone. Like Netflix is on your phones and shit like that. And like what people want is they just want a story to like. Remember when Sopranos would be on Sundays? And you're like, dude, because you just want to know what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
can create that narrative, dude. If it's like, hey, I'm like, dude, if you just be like, yo, I'm flipping a house, and you just start day one, like, okay, what, like. That could be content for a year, 6 months. Well, hopefully a year to flip it. But like, when you're looking and all this, and people want to know, and you're right, man, when you run into them in real life, they are so caught up on everything that you're doing. When you like, if you're running social media with video, you walk into a bar and they're like, oh, dude, I saw that house that you flipped, that blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, dude, they already know, dude. And the crazy thing is they come up to you talking about real estate.
Exactly. And I just read a study about video marketing, and what really blew my mind, and like after I read it, I was like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense. They were saying that video marketers and people that sell courses and influencers and products and things like that, people that make ads like this, if you can get good at selfie video ads, they're actually a ton more engaging than a professionally produced video. For like to get people to capture their attention and get them to engage. So, I know like on my team, people are like, well, I don't have the money to hire a videographer, or I don't have, it's like, you don't need that. You really don't need that.
Also, it's like, dude, remember what was the first house you sold, right? Like I remember selling like a house with like a hoarder house for like 50 grand in Barnegat or something. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't perfect the first time, like it wasn't all.
Exactly.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Oh, one thing I'll share too that came to mind, and then we'll move on, is it's funny, Jen Kuhn, who's she's at ESP too. I remember I was talking to her a year ago, because we do like events, right? And I call through my database, dude. Like I call every person, right? And I was talking to her, and I was like, she's like, what are you up to, Joe Oz? And I'm like, God, I'm just trying to get through this database, dude. And like, I like inviting, but when you're calling through your database, you're like that person you really want to call. And then there's those 3 people you're like, I don't know how to call them. And then like, and I'm leaving messages and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what are you doing, dude? She's like, if you film a video, everyone's going to see it. Probably 1,000 people will see it, right? Nobody wants to hear from you. Nobody wants to pick up the phone. She's like, pick your VIPs. There's probably less than 20 of them. Call them, invite them, and just shoot a video. And I was like, I was mad at first because I knew she was right. Like I was like insecure, and I was like, I knew she was right. And I was like, she's totally right, dude. And like, I didn't want to call these people. They didn't want to get phone calls from me, Well,
I'll tell you another one that I think that piggybacks off of that concept that I'm like begging my team to implement. And it's something that I'm like trying to be huge on right now, is sending video text messages. So like if a client asks a question about maybe like an inspection period, something, just anything that has to do with the deal, rather than typing out a text, jump on a quick video and be like, hey, listen, I just wanted to explain this to you, like, blah, blah. And, or even if it's a brand new lead that comes in, right? It's a cold lead. Instead of shooting them a text or a call in the middle, something like that, text them a video. I think people are a lot more receptive to like being able to put a face to a name as well. I know for me, like, I'm sure you too, Joe, you get people in your inbox and like DMs that are trying to like sell you products and things like that all the time. I just,
is it real? Is it a bot? Is it real? Yeah.
Always delete. One time I got a video from a guy that addressed me by name, and I was like, whoa, you know what? I like this guy. You know what I mean? And I gave him a shot to pitch his product. Now, if he was just words in an inbox, he would have got deleted like everybody else. So I think video text goes a long way.
Dude, the first video text I sent.
And if you're too afraid to video text, send a voice text, because text in general gets very misconstrued. I know sometimes like I could sound like a dick on through a text message, or like vice versa. And so you don't want your clients to think that.
So what trends or challenges do you see in real estate at the moment? And what is your team doing to overcome that, man?
I think the biggest obvious challenge right now is lack of inventory. My team works with a lot of buyers, and it's just challenging trying to get them deals accepted and stuff. And so what we've been trying to do is put an emphasis on keeping deals in-house if possible, and trying to sell homes off market prior to hitting the MLS. We have a team meeting every Monday that we go around the room and talk about anything that we may have coming to market. And first and foremost, everyone knows, like, if you have a listing coming, you better tell everyone on the team, because we have a database of like 10,000 buyers right now. Someone's got a buyer for it. You know what I mean? Like, someone somewhere. And so, like, if we can help each other out in that way, we're trying, but it's challenging. I think everyone's facing the same challenge,
Bro, we just went through, Scott Mawson's on here. He's our ISA, and we went through the list, and we were talking about how, like, shit, almost every listing, like, not every one, but like we went through our pipeline, our under contracts, and like we double ended like almost all of our listings. And
Yeah, there's a lot of them doing exactly the same thing.
I like to use that kind of too. Like, if let's say your agents are at an open house and they meet someone, instead of just the same old, hey, you're working with an agent, you want me to send you some listings? I always try to use the fact that, hey, I'm on a pretty large team. We're listing new properties almost every day. Like, if this is something you're interested in, I'm sure we're going to be listing something very similar in the near future. Would you like me to reach out to you if we have any off-market listing opportunities? This way you don't have to compete with everyone else and Zillow and everything else. And that kind of gives us a little bit of a competitive edge, over the next guy.
Yeah, and it probably, like, you're like us, right? We actually have off markets we've sold, right? And we get to use
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Dude, I love it. That's such good advice, man. Does your team do any lead generation, or where do your leads come from?
Yeah. So I encourage my agents, like, in a perfect world, we tell them that, like, their production should be 50-50 team generated leads, self-generated leads. And so I personally put together a lead generation like handbook that is 17 different ways that I personally have generated leads in my career. And then I kind of break them down into like how I do them and things like that. And so, again, in a perfect world, I've broken down calendars so that every agent can fit in at least an hour working on each lead gen thing per week, and then continue to reset the cycle. Because my thought process is, I've got 17 different things there. Even if you absolutely hate 2 of them and you call it 15, if you can spend 2 or 3 hours a day touching those things Monday through Friday, and you do it 52 weeks out of the year, you're going to get at least one deal per source. In my opinion, if you're doing it every week, you're going to get multiple deals, but let's just call it one. That's 15 deals right there. If you can close another 15 from our team, it's a pretty good year at 30 transactions, So, and that's the bare minimum. The challenge is people don't want to do it. They know what to do. They just don't want to do it.
So where on earth do you find an hour to prospect, dude? That's insane.
That's crazy.
How on earth do you do that? Especially, so anyway,
I'll tell you what's been crushing it for us recently. I'm like kind of going back to old school tactics, and we've been sending a lot of letters to neighborhoods because, and it's very, very simple. Like, hey, we just sold, 123 Main Street. We had 10 offers on it. The other 9 buyers still want to be in your neighborhood. And instead of saying, like, if you're thinking of selling, the last sentence is, would you like to hear an offer on your home? Period.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to hear an offer.
Yes,
right?
Totally. Yeah.
I'm not asking them if they want to list their home. I'm just asking if you're open to hearing an offer.
Yeah. Those are the, we had a team that I was talking to someone else. They had a team member who, and by the way, the stuff that Sal and I are talking about, like, works, you just have to do it, right? Like every house has multiple offers, right? And like you have a listing, right? Sal, you have a listing, right? Like that have multiple offers. Well, you can take that, like 5 of the offers weren't accepted, right? You can like take those 5 offers, you can print them out with a printer, right? I'm sure your office has a printer, right? And you can like scratch out the names, right? And then you can like go to the neighborhood and just be like, hey, I have 5 people that are willing to buy in this neighborhood. We just lost Mary's house over there. Are you willing to hear what a buyer would pay for your house today?
Yeah.
And then like, damn. And the cool part is what we've learned is that person might not sell you that house today, but if they're thinking about selling, that starts the conversation. And in 6 months, when they're ready to list, they're not interviewing 3 agents. They're just bringing Sal in because Sal's the person that got in a relationship with them over the course of 6 months.
Yeah.
So I love that, man.
One thing I've learned about lead generation is there is like no secrets to it, right? It's just like nothing has changed in the last 5 to 10 years, aside from like a little more social media geared, but like aside from that, it's just doing the basics over and over, but staying consistent with it. What I see that happens the most with most realtors and people on my team is that they try one lead gen source for like one day or a couple days, and they don't get an immediate deal, and they're like, this sucks, it doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. But unfortunately, it's just in our business, it's a numbers game, right? Like, and I tell people all the time, like, one of our sources is calling FSBOs, and we have a couple agents that are awesome at it, and they do script practice and things like that. But there may be 3 months that goes by that person doesn't get one single FSBO listing, but then the following month they get 6. So it's like you have to be consistent with it. That's the name of the game. If you could just do the basics over and over every day for a full year, like do that, then tell me it doesn't work.
Well, you said that's great, man. What I heard you say before is you said you did 12, 13 deals. You spent 2 years just hammering the phones, and then you went to 45 deals. Is that what you said?
Kind of, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's like a hockey stick, right? It's like there's a guy named Tim Heil. He was a Keller Williams guy, and he mega. And the dude just came out of college and read the MREA book, and he just called neighborhoods for 12 months, and then he did like 50 million the next year, and he had to start a team.
Yep.
Like, he just called neighborhoods and just stayed in contact with those people that said yes. And yeah, it's pretty. I love that you said that, man. Nothing's changed. You can call neighborhoods, you can sit open houses, and you probably have to sell 25 houses on accident, right?
I think the biggest like factor with all of that stuff is like working on yourself as a professional and a salesperson, and like someone that can persuade and like know how to adjust to people, right? Like I tell my team, like, one thing that I love is, the Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, we all know that book, right? One of the things that I heard him say that like I think about all the time is he's a New York Times bestselling author. He's, multiple books. And he said one time he had a woman come up to him, and she was kind of like pissed off at him. And she was like, it doesn't make any sense. I've got all these, writing degrees, and I went to Harvard, and I did this and I did that. And you didn't even go to college, yet you're the New York Times bestselling author. And he was like, well, think about what you're saying. It's not best writing author, it's best selling author. You can find grammatical errors all day in my book, but I know how to sell, right? And so like I equate that too with my team. People are worried about like, learning about homes and how to show them, and like that's all well and good, but if you can't get a client and get them to the closing table, like you can know every stat about every home in the world, it doesn't matter. Like your job is to get clients. So if you're too busy that you can't prospect, like what are you doing? Like that is your job.
I love you, Sal. That's great, man. It's great stuff, dude. I love it, dude. That's why I love, dude. And by the way, I'll just say this, man, like I did really well with expireds and off markets, and it's because of you, man. Like you inspired me. You were like, dude, it works. I remember, dude, we were calling the white member, like, how do we find phone numbers? It was so funny, dude. It's so funny to look back. I was like, dude, how do we find a phone number? You're like, I don't know. I like Google it in the morning. I go to whitepages.com.
Yeah.
Like now we have dialers, and the data shows up, and like, it's so funny, man. I remember like, I don't know, dude, it's funny, man. Dude, like, and like, yeah, I did it and I did it and I did it and I did it wrong. I had the same probably, thing that you did, where it was like, made a million phone calls. Nobody wanted to meet with me. I didn't know what to say. I sounded like shit. And then I started like, it's the 4 conversations, right? I finally set an appointment. Then I got to the appointment. I know what to say. And I screwed that up, right? And then it's like, and that's the thing, man, is like, you just can't, I call it the cheese grater, like taking the cheese grater to the face. Like you got like, eventually the cheese grater comes off your face and then your skin grows back, Yeah. But that's awesome, man. I love it. Dude, where do you see yourself in your organization like 3 to 5 years from now? Are you like a big goal setting guy? Do you think that far out? What does that look like?
I do. I will say that switching over to EXP has drastically changed my long-term goals. My new goal is and I think so twofold. Switching to EXP and my son being born drastically changed my long-term goals. Because like I was always the type of person that like I wanted to work as much as possible and do as and obviously make as much as possible. I'm very financially driven. I'll just be open and honest about that. So like for me, financial freedom is like huge, so I can just make the choices to do what I want. But my long-term goals were always to be working like nonstop and building businesses. Now I'm trying to figure out how I can work the least and also be as efficient as possible. However, I think that the two kind of go hand in hand, right? For me, in order for me to step back a little bit, I have to grow first. And so I want to grow my team to, at least 50 agents in the next 2 or 3 years. 5 years is a little far out for me. I kind of like rolling with it and seeing what's going on in my life. But I think
you're gonna have 50 agents by like next week, bro.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know. I'll be honest. I obviously have goals for the next year, but for the next 3 to 5, I don't know, man. My wife and I's business have changed so much. We're now getting a lot into the education type of platform. I help her with a lot of her businesses. She has a couple like 6-figure businesses, which is awesome. And so that takes up some of my time as well. But yeah, I want to have my team to at least 50 agents, at least 10 staff, running fairly self-sufficient. I personally want to step out of production and kind of just focus on running my team and building them up. And kind of just, and also we expanded to Florida this year. So I now have 5 full-time agents in Florida that are selling houses down there. So I'd eventually I'd like to grow that to kind of match where we are here, and eventually spend, at least a third of my time down there.
Dude, that was my next question. This next question here says, what is expansion? I know it's relative to you. Are you working on that? Dude, so you just glossed over. Yeah, I'm in Miami now. So can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so once we went to EXP and my eyes opened up about what I can do, and just from spending a good amount of time in Miami, from having friends and family down there and stuff, I knew people and agents down there that had always said like, man, if you ever want to expand to Florida, like, let me know, and then one day I was like, hey, guess what? I'm doing it. Are you down? And we kind of just ran with it. And so yeah, it's cool. We now have 5 agents in Florida. We're about to open up our first office down there. We just hired an agent on the West Coast. So who knows if we expand over there. But it's been really cool.
That's awesome. Dude, congrats, man.
Thanks. And I think I will say, just like, I think a reason why people want to join our team down in Florida when we have no presence in Florida is because for the last 5 years, I've built my team as if I was building a brokerage. And so that's why EXP was such an easy move for me. What I mean by that is a lot of teams, every team operates themselves differently. For the first couple of years, sacrificed all of our profits to really make sure that everything that we did, handed out, posted was super custom and super high end to us. So all of our agents down in Florida, we give them so much material to go and get clients and land listing appointments that no brokerage is doing. I don't know many teams that are doing it, just because it's very time consuming. It's very costly. So we provide a ton of support for those agents that they're benefiting from it,
Dude, that's awesome, man. What are the pros and cons of growing a real estate organization? And by the way, here's the sub question. What you just said that you were building your real estate team to act like a brokerage. Why was that important to you?
Because I never wanted to so I felt that I started having some success because I was very, very, particular about how I presented myself, my product, how, the things that I would present to a client. I was very particular. And when I got into the real estate industry, I kind of looked around and I was like, this is what you guys are using. And I tried to emulate high-end luxury brands or high-end hotels or something like that. And I was just like, you guys are using these, we're getting paid way too much money to be using this type of stuff. So when I started my team, I was like, you know what, I want to do everything my way. And so we just completely went rogue and just did everything on our own, everything custom. But I think it's important to maintain the integrity of the quality and the reputation. So I don't know. I think that's what sets me apart. I've always I've been in on many appointments that, you know, after I pitch, you know, to them, they're just like, as soon as you got here and like showed us your presentation, we knew we were hiring you, just because like no one else has anything even close to this. So for me, I always thought it was important to have that type of stuff, and to supply it to our agents, because when I was an individual agent in a brokerage, sure, there was things that we could have done and gotten, but like as a new agent, I was broke, man. I couldn't do those things. So like, how do I compete with the top producer? So I figured, you know what, if I'm going to take these people on my team, I want to arm them with the same things that I've been using, you know, and give them the same ability.
Dude, that's awesome.
Sal, I got a question. You know, coming into it cold, when I partnered up with Joe, I like put the jacket on and went out as a listing agent and was competing against you sometimes. And I wasn't so happy about that all the time. What in the marketplace, and I know especially from talking to other agents and stuff, you've gotten to a reputation of being able to like be a luxury agent and work at a higher price point. Like, was there things that you did that were strategic about that? Or when you're talking to, what advice do you have that's like actionable things for people that are like, hey, I got my license 6 months ago, I want to be selling $1 million houses. And I can even speak to myself, like there is a level of, you know, awareness of like, hey, that commission check is a lot of money. And I don't think people talk about this enough, but there's a level of self-awareness, self-consciousness that comes with that, where like, yo, whatever I was doing in my previous life, I'd never like went to be able to charge somebody 50 grand for something in what seems to be like a signature on a piece of paper. And people are not comfortable with that. Like, what did you do to get over that? What advice would you have to somebody that's, you know,
so awesome question.
Stepping into that.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I'd like to talk about there. Great question. Number one of the things that I think helped me was, like I said just prior, was I never, ever sacrificed quality. So what I mean by that is, when I was getting $200,000 and $300,000 listings, I always made sure to have professional photography every single time. I don't care how shitty the house was or how cheap it was. I did professional photography on rentals. I made sure that I had high quality brochures. I made sure that I hired photographers that were doing like twilight shoots when no one was doing that, and video walkthroughs when no one was doing that. I tried to show those, even though I didn't have high-end clients, I wanted them to see what I'm doing and say, wow, I would love my house represented that way. As opposed to, I know a lot of agents that are like, well, this is just a $100,000 adult community. Why am I going to spend the money on those things? And it's because like, hey, that high-end client maybe following you on social, maybe looking at your listings, maybe seeing what you're doing, you expect them to see you do a shitty job on the low end house and be like, oh, well, if I gave them the opportunity on mine, they definitely do a better job. Like, you can't expect people to think that. So for me, I think that was one thing that helped, was that I always made sure that the quality, no matter how cheap or what level of home it was like as perfect as I could possibly get it. And there was many people that were like, dude, you gotta think about your bottom line, and you can only allocate so much money to things, and you know, you're only making X on that house. For me, it was about the big picture, and I just wanted everything to be perfect. So I think that's one thing. Don't sacrifice quality on anything, even if it's not a high-end listing. Show those high-end clients what you can do. Like, that's your kind of like your trial run. And then number two, one thing that I did was I took on high-end listings that no one else wanted, whether they were like an expired listing or the people wanted way more money than the house would ever sell for. Early on, when I didn't have $1 million listing, my first couple $1 million listings were those ones that no one else wanted, because the seller was crazy. They wanted $1 million too much. It sat on the market for 2 years. And I was just like, you know what? I'll take it, because if I can show people, if people can relate me and say, wow, he's selling $1 million home, right? Like, I'm big on perception too, right? And what people are seeing and what they're thinking. And so for me, the first chance I got to take on one of these crazy overpriced, never gonna sell listings, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna use this and show all the other $1 million homes how well I can promote their house. And not only that, but I'm going to milk this listing to hold open houses, to try and get buyer leads in this price range, to just kind of put myself surround myself with those types of people. Whether this one was going to sell or not, I don't care if I spent $5,000 on the marketing and the videography and everything else, because even if it wasn't going to sell, because I knew it was going to put me in the right group of people. So I think that's one thing that you should do too. Even like I said, even if the house isn't going to sell, get your first $1 million listing. Just get it, and that will lead to other opportunities. And then lastly, I think it's a matter of, look, people do business with people that they're friends with, right? Like a lot of times, majority of your business is coming from referrals from friends or family or people that you knew from, your gym or something like that. So I would put myself in those places. I would go to particular restaurants or hang out at particular bars or go golfing when I fucking hate golf, like do certain things that would just not only put me in that particular group, but I wanted that perception that that's who I was too, right? Like that I could hang with these people and that I wasn't like beneath them. I don't know if that helps or not, but
that's perfect, man. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what dude, Bob Lucido, right? He was like one of the most top luxury dudes, like whatever in the country. He was like, just get one. He said
That's
exactly
it.
what you said, dude. He's like, if it's overpriced, if it's a piece, just get one and just sit it open every weekend and knock every door, make some noise. That's the same thing if you want to start a farm, you're trying to break into something, like whatever. Sal, that was awesome, man.
It took me like 4 years to get my first $1 million listing, and now it feels like that's kind of all I'm working on. It's pretty cool.
Good for you, man. Well, you were purposeful about it, and
another thing, I'll give one other really quick practical tip for that. Is, again, I'm like big on perception, and so like social media wise, once I really like made it like put my foot in the sand, and I was like, you know what, I'm really going to go hard at trying to be a more higher end luxury agent. I completely stopped promoting anything under a certain price point. And I will say, you have to be okay with losing a couple of those deals. There were times that I'd be at a function or an event, and someone that I kind of knew fairly well would be like, oh, we just bought a house or sold a house, but we didn't want to bother you. It wasn't like one of those fancy $1 million homes that you sell. You don't have time for that. And like inside, I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? I'll sell anything. But if you want, you have to be able to accept those losses to get into that price point. And so like, if you look at my social media, like maybe once a year will you see a house on there under like 700,000-800,000, maybe. And that's because it's like a very unique situation. But typically I'm only showing you what I want to be doing so that people associate me with that.
Thanks, Sal. Now no one on our team's going to sell anything anymore, and they're all luxury. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. It's funny, Lauren, who's our director of operations, whenever I go to a training or a seminar, I come back and I'm like, we're doing all this, like I'm changing everything, like,
yeah.
Dude, let me ask you this, dude, and we'll open it up for questions, man. What would you say to a brand new agent, man? Like, I'm just like what's the best advice that you can give to a brand new agent? Because we've got some here, and that's it, man. Like, dude, I'm a brand new agent, dude. What's up? What are you telling me?
The best advice that I can give is to be patient and be consistent. You need to be patient because you can't get into this business and just expect, like, look, at the end of the day, it's not like, now, yes, we offer different levels and qualities of service, but we all offer the same type of thing, right? It's not like you go to the store and like, I like this shirt better than that shirt. Like, we all offer kind of the same service at kind of the same price. And so at the end of the day, it's like, why is someone going to hire you, the brand new guy, over like me or Joe or someone that's been in the business for 100 years? And I see people get really discouraged if they don't get clients like immediately. For me, it's learn as much as you possibly can in the first year, get as much experience as you possibly can in the first year, sit every open house that you can, cover as many showings as you can, really get as much knowledge and experience, like firsthand experience as you possibly can, and understand that it's going to take doing the basics consistently for a year for things to start to click. Most of my new agents, they start to really like get consistent with putting a couple deals a month under contract after like month 6, 7, 8. Like, it takes a solid 6 months before they before things start to click. And I think a lot of people get discouraged too quickly. And I think a lot of people look at some of the top producers and people that have been in the business a long time, and they look at what they do on a daily basis and they're like, well, that doesn't work for me. And I think they're missing the picture that like all of those guys got there by knocking doors and calling expireds and sending letters. Like now they're in a position where they may not have to do that and they can live off of referrals, but that's not you, right? So like you need to like be self-aware, understand that you're not going to compete with me or Joe or someone else. Right now, just take whatever business you can, whatever experience you can, live as cheap as you can for the first year because you're not going to probably crush it, right? But just learn as much as you possibly can. And hey, look, there are some people that get into the business, they're unnatural and they do really, really well in their first year. But I know I didn't. Most of the people that I know didn't. So just be patient and be consistent day in and day out. I laugh when we hire new agents and literally it's like their second week and they're like not in the office all week. And I reach out to them like, hey man, you okay? And they're like, well, yeah, I didn't have anything to do. I'm like, well, actually, there's a lot to do. You know what I mean? I think it's just being consistent and doing those basics over and over, like we talked about in the beginning. There's no magic.
I like the idea of taking any opportunity that comes your way and viewing it as a learning investment in yourself to make yourself get the whatever. Like in my first year, it's cool to say that I took 50 listings. The part that I leave out is I went on like fucking 300 appointments. Like, and that's why I wasn't so great. It was like I went to appointments I knew I wasn't gonna get. Yep. And that weren't going to list or whatever, because I was able to then go and say, I've been on 8 appointments this week. And then that was the signature that I got. And I got that because I was able to talk about the other house or the story or why that one didn't sell. And then we had some people come and go. And I'd be like, hey, I set this appointment. I'm already on one. Like, this is the only time they're available. And they wouldn't want to go because it was for whatever. They would make up a story about why it wasn't like money in their pocket today. Yep. And I was just like, you're missing the point.
Most people don't recognize an opportunity unless there's a paycheck attached to it. And that's the big problem. But no, I mean, and you probably got those 300 appointments because you were consistent every day with prospecting and lead gen and coming into the office and doing your job, you know?
Oh yeah, every day. Yeah.
We were talking, Scott and I were talking about that yesterday, dude. I pulled up the year over year, our market trends, like how many, we track everything, dude, calls, appointments, year over year. And we look at the results, and we go over them. And I was like, Jesus. The appointments.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
She's in the Garden of Eden.
Someone just said I have a quick question. I think it was Amanda Cruz.
Amanda was trying to say something.
I thought there was background noise, so I like muted her too quickly. My apologies, Amanda. So
yeah. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, Amanda has a question. Go ahead, Amanda. Go for Amanda.
Oh, it's me. Sorry, I'm at the hair salon, but I didn't want to miss this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you can't be on a training, right? Holy shit.
Right.
So anyway, Sal, thank you so much. But my question is, so you went like from a substantial amount of, people while joining EXP. How did you get over the fear of not being able to train? Sorry, I can't even take myself seriously right now. How did you get over like the fear of growing your team? Because I'm at the point where like I have 2 really good buyers agents. And, I'd like to grow my team, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to give them the same, quality of myself.
Yep. Yeah, really good question. I think growing a team, and I'm sure Joe can attest to this or add to this, but for me anyway, there was like a hump that I had to get over. Having a couple agents, 2 or 3, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier to manage. Then once you start adding staff and a couple more agents that take up your time and you're still personally producing, it starts to get really challenging. But if you can get over that hump and hire more staff, that was a big thing for me. So the staff was super, super important. Now I have a full-time sales manager that helps train my team. They're in the office Monday through Friday to take a lot of that time burden off of my plate. And because my day used to be consumed with very basic questions, right? That could have been answered with a Google search, or, you know, they didn't need me to take that much time out of my day. And so I hired a sales manager to handle a lot of those questions. I also hired, I took my most senior agent and I incentivized them to train all of our brand new agents for the first 6 weeks. And I thought to myself, and like, you got to get creative with it. Like, at the end of the day, it's your own business. You can do whatever you want. So I thought to myself, like, geez, if I had to hire someone to just train all my new agents, I'd have to pay them, I don't know, a couple grand a month or something like that. So instead I was like, hey man, I'll make you a deal. You train all of our new agents, I'll pay your car payment. You get a company car out of it. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So now it costs me like $600 a month. And for the first 6 weeks, all of my brand new agents go to him first. I also pre-recorded a 10-hour video course. So it's 5 videos, 2 hours each of just me, just straight talking for 10 hours. And it goes over everything that I've learned and I know about real estate. And so all of our brand new agents, they first go through my 10-hour video course. Then they sit with Mike for 6 weeks. Then they have our sales manager in the office. So I've kind of like put all these layers so that I don't have to handle everything at all times. But that first initial growth from where you're at with 2 agents to that next step of like maybe 6 to 10, I'll be honest, it's going to require you working a lot and a lot of your, you sacrificing a lot of your time and sometimes even sacrificing your time that you would be spending on getting new clients or servicing your clients. There was a time where I was like, whoa, my personal business is suffering because I'm spending so much time on my team. I need to hire help. So I think that's it. If you can have good help, that's a huge, huge part.
Thank you.
Yep.
That was great, Sal. Thanks, Amanda. Amanda's awesome, by the way. She's going to implement. She's going to do everything you said. She implements. It's really rad. Anybody else have any questions for Sal, dude? Anyone else want to speak up, ask Sal a question?
Go ahead, Tim. So I was just going to ask Sal if out of the list of lead gens that you have for your team, what's the one that's helped you start it all? And would you mind sharing social media? I figured I see every day pretty much.
Hands down, no question about it. Social media is the backbone of my entire business, my branding. It's what got me to the level that I'm at. I think in today's world, right, like especially post-pandemic world, we're not doing a ton of face-to-face interaction. And I think it's just an easy way to like hack into people's lives without actually having to be in front of them. Like 10, 20 years ago, if you weren't at an event, at a bar, in person with someone, they would have no idea what's going on in your life. So I was like, wait a second, I can pretty much promote and do everything that I show the world what I'm doing every day for free. Like to me, it just was like a no-brainer. And so I've been consistent on social media my entire career. I think it's the most important thing. But I also think that, like, full disclosure, you can like, it can be detrimental to your business if you're not using it the right way. I see some agents like, for me, I don't talk about politics. I don't bash clients. I see realtors literally like talking about like shitty clients that they had, maybe not calling them by name, but like, I don't ever talk about how like my job is so hard and I need to go to the bar at 3. Like I see all these things that people post and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. But like, if I was your client, I'd be like, oh my God, I need to hire someone else, And so like, I've always been very, very, very conscious about what I put out there, the perception that people are looking at, and being consistent with it and showing people that like, hey, this is what I'm about. This is my passion. I do this every single day, day in and day out. And oh, by the way, like I'm pretty fucking good at it. Like this is what I've done. Like I know a lot of people they don't want to be like the guy that brags about their sales, or they don't want to be annoying by posting too many homes. It's like, I could care less if you think I'm annoying. I could care less if you think I'm bragging, because when it comes time to get top dollar for your house, you're going to call me, and that's all I care about.
Fair. Cool. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
So I got one. Yeah, thanks for being on. I'm driving. I hope you can hear me okay. You mentioned before when you were answering Gil's question about just being high end about everything. And you mentioned brochures. Now, like in this world, in the more digital world, is there anything you're doing that's like the equivalent of that, or anything you've started? You talked about social, and your posts are obviously super clean. Are you doing like digital brochures, digital mailers, anything like that?
So we're still doing old school brochures that people can take with them when they come to see the house. I'm a big believer of getting people to the home. Like I never did Matterport videos, those 3D walkthroughs, just because like for me, again, I put myself in the consumer's shoes and I'm like, these are like distorted, it's funky. I could see a lot of people saying, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna go look at that house just based on this distorted video walkthrough. So like, I never did that. I wanted to get them there in person. And then when they were there, I let them leave with this really nice high-end brochure. The only thing I will say that we have been doing now is implementing QR codes on things that takes them back to our website, that captures their information, that, so we're implementing that type of stuff. Other than that, like one thing I did do, I will say is, so I put together, like I mentioned earlier, we call it like a brand book, our listing presentation pitch book, whatever you want to call it. But we made them like super high end, like bound, like a real book, so that when we go to someone's house, they're like, holy shit, like this is crazy. But then we have that in a digital format as well that we send to our clients so that they can look through that on their phone or whatever the case may be. But that's like, we don't really get super techie other than like the QR codes and stuff.
I love that. The QR code is interesting. What are you using for that digital listing presentation? Is there a software?
So I have my graphic designer that designed that whole pitch book. He just like, I don't know how he did it, but he like has it in a PDF for me. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. And I think that's one thing with, if you're going to build a team or anything, like you got to have good people behind you, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm not good at. And I just like blindly trust them with things. Joe, you probably know Evan is my graphic designer, and he's like really good with that type of stuff. So I kind of just let him run with it. I couldn't even tell you how he did it, but I could find out.
That would be awesome. Yeah, if you could share, that sounds cool.
No problem.
Dude, Sal, man, I'm gonna respect your time, man. I'm gonna let you bounce, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for dude. Everybody on my team is gonna make me buy all that stuff you just talked about. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
QR code.
Joe, we don't have brochure. Oh my God, Jesus, dude, Sal, that was awesome, man. I love it. Thank you for everything. There was so much value in there, and yeah, dude, we're an ally of yours. If there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure, guys. Good talking to
That
you.
was
Thanks,
great.
Sal.
Thanks a lot, Sal. Much
Thanks for
appreciated.
coming on, Sal.
Thank you.
Much luck, Sal.